Hi, everybody. Dr. Maria Sampoulos. I have the pleasure of having Dr. Rhue with me today, a myopia management expert. Dr. Rhue has graduated from Nova Southeastern University and is practicing in Florida. Thank you, Dr. Rhue, for joining us tonight.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Can you give us some background on you? I know you have a lot of experience with leadership and practice management in the industry and a new business that you've created.
Sure. Graduated from Nova, like Marie said, in 2009, did a residency, Bascom Palmer and ocular disease, and then joined a private practice, but also did the corporate setting, as we all do, especially in South Florida, for quite some time. And then I bought into that practice. So now I am a partner, did that in 2015. Also was on the BCOA board for the Broward County Optometric Association. So I'm recent past president of that association. So got to see a lot from the inside of, as well as politics behind a lot of stuff, especially in Florida. Everybody's always coming after Florida first. And then launched a technology company called Dr. Contact Lens to kind of help move this industry forward. Got into myopia management when my son was actually born. So I have a close to 5-year-old son and kind of just went down this rabbit hole of myopia management. I'm a -5.5. My husband is a -6.5, and just literally did a quick Google search on if there was anything I could do and went down this rabbit hole and just never came out. So I'm excited to be here on behalf of CooperVision as our sponsor and talk a little bit about myopia management and what it can do for all of our practices and our patients.
Yeah, it's a hot topic right now. A lot of people are interested in it, and I felt like there was a need to kind of get some information out there for ODs. Can you, that's how you got into it? Was it with your son, or just, you being a high myope?
Yeah, so how I got into it, the burn and turn for all of us, it's fun for, 4, 5, 6 years. And then you kind of start questioning yourself on, is there more that I could do, as far as dry eye treatment, scleral lenses. So I'm a big scleral lens fitter. And then myopia management was really just kind of becoming more of a topic. Being on the board and just kind of seeing ODs at certain conferences, I got introduced to myopia management through one of them with Dr. Scott Pearl. And he said, hey, you've got to come to this meeting. He dragged me to Vision by Design, which is the AAOMC. Did their boot camp, kind of just literally drank the Kool-Aid from a fire hose. never looked back. And then it's exciting here. So we're on the STAR study, which is the investigation of atropine. So we got on that investigation for atropine to get FDA approved. And just with Cooper, knowing that my site's been around the rural world in other parts of the country since 2009, 2010, I was always like, when is this coming? When is this coming? So it's excited that they went for the FDA approval. It's absolutely exploded other portions of myopia management. And it's exciting to see that this is in every journal, that this is becoming a problem. I'm sure we've all seen, in your practices included, more parents worried and concerned about their kids being on devices for 10 to 15 hours a day and bringing all of this insight. So I think that myopia management is a true gift to optometry, and we can really, really take this and run with it.
I love your passion about it. I love it. Why do you think that we should all get into myopia management? Do you think every doctor can kind of take a little bit and put it in, implement in their practice? Is it hard to implement it?
Great question. So can everybody do it? Yes. Should everybody do it? No, because you have to first and foremost love kids. So if you don't love kids, you can bring in an associate, you can refer to somebody that does, and we can kind of create these inner networks of referrals. I think that's always been missing in optometry, is these inner networks. So if you're a dry eye specialist, build that. If you're scleral lenses, build that. And we can kind of refer back to one another. As far as this coming into optometry and being able to do it, you just like we learned how to do glaucoma, and we learned how to manage retinal detachments and those types of things, you can learn how to manage it with this. And so education is where it all starts. Not really many of us got it in school, if any. Like, I found a textbook from 2008 that said there's nothing we can do about myopia. And like that was period. So, and that wasn't that long ago. So this is an innovative field. It's really fun. And there's just a couple steps that you have to take, obviously, to learn it, how to implement it, and then how to charge for it appropriately and how to present it to your patients. We can go through that a little bit later. But yes, everybody can do this. This is in our wheelhouse. 70% of patients that we see are myopic. All of us have myopic practices. We just have to be able to even field our own data. And that's where you build your myopia practice. You don't have to do all these fancy marketing. You don't have to do all this, Facebook ads and all these other stuff. You have it right there. And what we're all really good at is managing myopia already. You got a -6 in your chair. What's the next thing out of your mouth? If you have flashes and floaters, if you have anything like that, my number's on your speed dial. Call me right away. All of us are managing myopia when it's too late. So we just have to flip it. So
those are all good points. How do we learn about it, myopia management? Are there journals? We go to conferences. How do we get information on this?
So there's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of great information. One group is the Myopia Profile Facebook group. Right then and there, we've got some great innovators. Earl Smith from Houston. We have Mark Bullimar, who also has a website called bullers2020.com, where all the latest and greatest research is there. A lot of stuff is coming out of New Zealand and Australia and Singapore. Another great course is the Brian Holden Institute. That's BRIEN Holden. They've got a great calculator that lives literally on every single computer in our office. You put in what the patient's age is, you put in what their refraction is, and then it shows you where that kid's going to go. And if we can control it by what my site does, 52%, you're going to cut that -3 and keep them at a -3 versus that kid progressing to a -7 or a -9. So that's where you can get started. Vision by Design, our own AAOMC, the American Academy of Myopia Control, and Ortho-K, they're actually doing a boot camp, a virtual one that they're putting together that hopefully will get back to a live conference. That's a great one. You've got GSLS is putting a myopia management. So all of these people are putting in myopia management into our already curriculums. So that's where you're starting to see this come in. But it's not hard to learn at all.
Yeah, I've started to do some research. I'm no expert by any means. I think it's something that I need to learn. Review of myopia management has been a good source to kind of get some information. So I'm starting to kind of implement it. I did get certified with my site for my practice as well. And I think it's going to change my practice. How do you think it's changed your practice? Because I know you've been doing it longer than I have.
Yeah, myopia management has absolutely changed my practice for the better. With all of us getting crushed by vision plans and getting crushed by online retailers and other things that are out there, myopia, I think, is really that gift that we all have to take, and we have to stop being so nearsighted about myopia management. This is no longer snake oil, especially with the FDA approval from Cooper Vision. With my site, that's another, they've got 5 modules that you take. At the end of it, they have an interactive kind of thing like this where you can ask 4 panelists all of your questions on how to bring it to your practice. So Cooper's really put together a great platform to help you learn these things and how to implement it. And then again, you have all those other resources at your disposal to bring it to your practice.
Yeah, I think our mindsets in general is that it's a refractive error myopia. How do we change that mindset in optometry? Because I think it is the future, and like you said, it's a way to kind of combat these vision plans and online realtors and things like that.
Yeah, so myopia, if we think about it a little bit futuristic, so yes, it is a refractive error, and that's how it's coded, right, when we do all of our coding. However, we all know what happens with high myopia. You get retinal detachments, you get lattice, you get peripapillary atrophy, Fuchs spots, myopic maculopathy. So when you're going over a -7 or -6 is really the danger zone, that's where you get that pulling, you get that stretching. That's why we always talk to our high myopes over -5 even, right, about the risks of being myopic. And so that's where myopia is in essence a disease. Just like we know glaucoma, if your pressure is high, what does it lead to? Cupping, and we want to lower your pressure. Flip that to myopia. We know myopia leads to retinal detachments. We know that myopia leads to myopic maculopathy, yet we don't do anything about it. And so when we're looking at our kids, if you take nothing else from this, but start seeing your kids earlier. So your 3, 4, 5, 6-year-olds, and we can even post it in the chat later here, Maria, but there's a little chart that your 4, 5, 6-year-olds should be scoping on a cycloplegic refraction. So for instance, a 6-year-old should be scoping about a plus 175. And you can use tropicamide 1%, 5 minutes apart to get a good cycloplegic refraction and to really get this data. But if you see a 6-year-old that's a plus 175, that's let's say a plus 50 at 6 years old, that kid is already nearsighted. They just don't have a minus in front of it. So why are we sending that kid out into the world and saying, hey, I'll see you in a year or 2 years, knowing that that kid's going to be nearsighted? Why don't we start intervening earlier by discussing this indoor-outdoor time, by looking at the parental myopia, by maybe getting ahead of it prophylactically? So there's some things that we can do to intervene really early. So if you're just sending, that 6-year-old or 7-year-old that presents with a -2 because the board's blurry, I feel bad now. I'm like, I did this kid a disservice because I didn't see them earlier enough and we didn't intervene early enough. And so those kids, when you see them, you'll start to feel bad. But on that side of it, you still have to charge for it, right? So we all have businesses to protect. We all have to sell glasses and contacts and those types of things, right? So it's learning and being okay with looking at this kind of like orthodontia, right? Where the parents want to do something and you just have to show them what that is. So that's where the Brilliant Futures program really has helped boost all of that in myopia management.
Yeah, the Brilliant Futures program, when I did it, it gave me a bright light to kind of see what we could do in our practice to really grow it and how to talk to the parents about it, show them the progression over years and what it is more than just a refractive error. But also what to charge too. So I thought that was important because a lot of doctors won't talk about fees and they think it's like a bad thing to talk about. But you do. You have to charge for your expertise. You have a business to run. Orthodontists charge, and everyone knows it's kind of like an out-of-pocket thing, right? So why not this as well? Why not optometry? Why not this is important? Is it hard to kind of implement it and to bring it into a practice for a doctor that doesn't have it?
So I would say yes and no. I'll give you a little checklist of things to do. So you don't want to just get your fit set and say that next -2 presents to your practice and slap it on there and say this is going to be it. You've got to create a structure on what you're going to charge, when you're going to see these kids back. And Cooper's done a great job of, that 1 week visit, that 1 month visit. That 1 month visit is very important for all modalities. It doesn't just matter if it's a soft dual focus lens. And then you've got to get your staff involved. So you've got to get your elevator pitch down, right? One thing I think that derails a lot of doctors with myopia management is it takes a lot of time. So you're not going to get all this out in a 2-minute conversation. You're not going to get all of this out in an introductory vision plan exam. So how are you going to bring that patient back for that consultation to figure out what's best for the patient? Is it atropine? Is it MiSight? Is it ortho-K? Is it a combo therapy? So figuring out what's best for the patient and the parent. And I will tell you one thing on that. My dad was a furniture salesman. He would build the furniture and sell the furniture. And on Saturdays and Sundays, he would work at the store. And if he had one person in there, meaning like a guy or a girl walks in without their significant other, he'd be like, oh, I don't have to go, because he knew he couldn't really close the sale, right? So if he had two people walk in, 2 partners, husband, wife, whatever it is, if they come in, he's like, I gotta go, I got a 2-legger, because he knew that he could close the sale. So take this into your myopia practice, right? Patient comes in with their mom or dad, -2, they think that you're going to just slap some glasses on them and let them go. Now you're presenting this huge program and this huge fee. And now they're like, I'm sorry, what? I came in for like $150 pair of glasses and I'm leaving with a bill that's in the thousands. Where's the disconnect? So you'll see that they'll go home and the other person at home is like, I'm sorry, what? And so they'll derail each other really quickly. So on these consults where you can really kind of use telemedicine in this manner is get all the data and set up a myopia consultation even via telemedicine where you've got two parents in front of you so they can make the decision together. And you'll see your myopia practice skyrocket. And time again, I would get so far behind. Like my staff would like, here's Dr. Rhue's cape again. Like we're gonna practice through lunch again. So if whatever there would be a myope, they're like, oh no. So you have to get concise on what you're talking about, or you will just kind of spin your wheels and have an angry staff that didn't eat lunch again. So
that's a great point. That's a great point that you just said, to bring both of them because they make decisions together, right? Especially if it's that high price point. Do you find that, that since you've been doing the telemedicine consultations about it, that you said capture rate has been higher, which is a great point there to do that because a lot of them will just, because things are crazy busy. One parent will take the kid in, just, it's a chore, get it done, and then now you're doing that consultation via, Zoom or telemedicine, and they can ask questions. You can kind of explain. I think that's a great point. If we take anything from that, I think it's this. That's great.
Yeah,
that's a good point. I want to use it now. I'm going to steal it.
It's all yours.
All right. Yeah. So what are some different treatment options? I know like we have MySight and it's great, right? It's just a daily lens. But what are some other things for other doctors that kind of want to maybe take other steps in myopia management?
Yeah, so there's really like a three-prong approach when it comes to myopia. You have atropine, which is not FDA approved yet, but we'll probably start to see some FDA approvals here in the next coming years. So it really is patient dependent on your atropine treatment. So there's a big concentration debate right now. Is it 0.01? Is it 0.025? Is it 0.05? Is it higher than that? Really what you're looking for is a 2 mm pupil dilation. So on a blue-eyed patient, you may get that with 0.01. And that's dosed at night, so 1 drop in each eye before bed. More reserved for your younger kids or kids that can't get into a contact lens option. Glasses, we don't really have anything that's really doing what we need to the retina. So for myopia management, so with atropine, what we think is happening is we're actually the atropine is binding to the scleral receptors to prevent the sclera from getting longer or from thinning. So we don't really know what the mechanism is right there. So there's some studies out right now to try to figure that out. Then you have glasses, which we don't have any of those available to us in the US yet, but you have the Sight Glass, you have the Hoya DIMS lens, you've got MyoSight. So Essilor has launched their Stellus lens. We don't really have those, but even if you think about it optically, a progressive doesn't really do much on what we're trying to do in the retina. What we're trying to do is create a myopic defocus in front of the retina. Think about it like a screen. If I move the screen back, I get stronger glasses or I refocus. Move the screen back again, I refocus. What I want to do is create those rays in front of the retina to prevent that screen from getting longer. So if you're just putting a progressive lens on a kid, maybe I'm getting 20% of myopic defocus, maybe, which is why that doesn't really work. Then you have the MySight lens, dual focus, two treatment zones up to +2, or it is a +2 ring right there. And then you also have Ortho-K. A lot of us didn't really learn Ortho-K. I don't know about you, Maria, but learned Ortho-K on a Friday afternoon in clinic right before I was trying to get to the bar. So that really didn't work in school. So Ortho-K, I was actually really against Ortho-K in the beginning because I didn't really learn it. We didn't know what we were doing. And what I thought we were doing was, putting a lens on a kid's eye. They were sleeping in it. It's smashing that central tissue. It's rubbing all over the place. We're creating all these like higher order aberrations and whatever, right? Until I went to Vision by Design and a speaker, he said, look, what we're doing is think of a human hair is 70 microns thick. What we're doing is we're compressing, not pushing, compressing the central tissue by 10 microns to mold a -5. And I was like, what? We're not even touching the central cornea because remember, fluorescein, in order to visualize fluorescein, you need 20 microns of fluorescein between the contact lens and the cornea to see fluorescein, which means we don't have enough fluorescein to even visualize it. So you're not even pushing on this, or you're not even compressing it. You're just compressing it with tissue, with fluid forces, not actually compressing. So that actually, when I got my head wrapped around that, now Ortho-K has become a big basis. So those are the treatments. You can learn again of all of them. So I think we'll do something later on, but it's really fun. So Ortho-K, MiSight, you've got Natural View, you've got all these awesome options for you. Synergize has a myopia lens. So it's really full gamut now, which is super fun.
No, it's great. We have a lot more resources now. How do you identify patients that to treat in your practice, and who's going to develop more myopia over the next couple of years? Because if we start seeing these patients at 6, 8 years old, if we treat them now, they're kind of a patient for life, right? So,
Exactly.
And it makes your job easier at the end, right? Where less retinal detachment and all the other stuff, and it's just more of a chatting exam, let's say at 50 years old and other conversations.
Right. And what we're seeing, like we've all had that really high myope, right? So I had a girl just 3 weeks ago. So she's been to us, she's a -22 and she's 34 years old. Last time I saw her, she was 20/40 NHI, presented back to me with blurry vision, and there she's got myopic maculopathy. So she went from 20/40 to 2400, and now we're super worried about the other eye. High myopia, I think, will become a thing of the past, but we all have to do it together. So how to identify patients? You got a mom or a dad in a chair, ask them if they have kids. Like most of the time the kids are with them. So ask them when their last eye exam was, right? So don't forget about your LASIK patients. So that's another good way, or referral, because you know that they were a -4 or -5 and they've got 2 little kids. Another way to just identify patients that we do in our practice, especially for pediatrics, is with the patient's or with the parents' permission. We have a little Polaroid camera, and we take a little Polaroid of every single kid that we see with a little sign, and we put it up on a wall. So everybody walks by this wall, and I can't tell you how many times people have said, "You see kids here?" I'm like, "Yes, we do. Look at our wall," right? So just something as little as that to bring this awareness to myopia. The myopic parents are super easy. It's the ones that don't have myopia, that their kid can't see the board, that they can't wrap their head around on why this is going to get worse and why it's important that it doesn't get worse. And I think we all saw this during the pandemic on how many patients are more aware of how much digital devices we have going on. I don't know about you, Maria, but I look at glands on every single patient, and I have for many, many years. These little kids' glands, they don't have any. Have you seen that?
Yeah, there's been a study. There's been a study saying now with the blue light being on the computer that the glands die, and you're seeing dry eye with younger kids. I'm seeing a lot of dry eye and chalazions, hordeolums, and things like that. A lot of dry eye disease with all my patients, and that was a great opportunity to grow my practice. I'll tell you that now with COVID. But I've never talked about dry eye with for young kids, and now I see that.
So it just leads in, the kids just lead into other parts of it. And then buying an existing practice, you kind of start aging out your practice if you don't keep these younger families to revive that. So it is a really good segue into keeping that family oriented practice, which is fun.
Yeah. What do you do to market it? I know, Cooper Vision provides resources to do so. They give you Facebook ads you can do, send letters to PCPs. What else have you done to kind of really grow that part of your practice?
Here's the thing, you don't really have to do all of that to grow your myopia practice. Yes, it's fun and you get outside referrals, but where you're really going to grow your myopia practice is literally from your patient base that you have right now. So just sending out a letter of all of those people, putting it up on your website that you do it, literally just talking to every single parent that you see is going to go way further than you sending a letter to your pediatricians hoping for referrals. Yes, that does help. Even talking to your LASIK surgeons. I've got one LASIK surgeon that does refer to us commonly, one that just still believes it's snake oil. So it really just depends on where you are in those relationships that you've nourished. your retinal surgeons, talking to them about parents that are highly myopic and how important it is for their kids to get eye exams. So it's really, we're just in this early education awareness, and it's going to take all of us talking to pediatricians, talking to other subspecialists, your cataract surgeons that you refer to, your retinal specialists that you refer to, your LASIK surgeons. So it's just generating those and educating that there is something we can do to help slow this down. But if there's nothing, you don't have to do the Facebook thing. You don't have to, put it on your website. But really where it's going to do is generate referrals from your practice. So there's not a lot that you have to do to be successful with this at all.
Besides telling the patient, you got to do it. It's your responsibility to tell the patient. It's part of your, I guess, assessment and plan for all your myopes, right? So
100%.
Yeah, they're coming to see you. They trust you. Give them the recommendations. I did have one parent. I said, look, you're going to hear a lot about this. It's going to be a lot of information coming out to the public. I want to know that you heard it from me first, that I did not, I presented this option to you. So I want to make sure that you know about it. Talk with your husband about it. These are my fees. This is what the outcome's supposed to be. So I think, it is having that conversation. A lot of doctors would say, what is the cost of starting something like this? Do I need equipment? How do you get started? Like, especially equipment, what is the upfront cost?
Yeah, I actually want to jump back to something you said, Maria, about having patients hear it from us first is critical right now. With all of the advertising that parents are going to come in and ask you about, you've got to be on the forefront of this. So it's starting to get out there. Cooper Vision, with the help of Sarah Michelle Gellar, Freddie Prinze, wish that he was the face, but they went with Sarah instead. But it's getting out there. And I think it's absolutely critical what you said. I want patients to hear about new technology from me, not from a TV or from a Facebook ad that they saw, because now that loses their trust. So even if you don't want to do this, just make sure that you start talking about it, that they did hear it from you first. As far as equipment to bring it in, not really a lot that you have to do. Obviously, I recommend a topographer, cycloplegia your kids, an axial length measurement machine or a piece of equipment. There's a lot out on the market now. So you can get one for under like $4,500 at this point to measure axial length. It's not a huge investment. Do 2 or 3 MySight programs and there pays for your axial length measurement. Measuring axial length is super, super fun. I now measure axial length on all of my myopes. Like for axial length, you want people to be between 24 and 25 is when you become myopic. Emmetropization is around 24 millimeters. Anything over 27 is in a very, very high danger zone. And so when I'm looking at -5s and -6s, what kind of myope are you? Are you a 24.5 millimeter myope? Are you a 27.5 millimeter -5 myope? So it really helps you on the education piece. No, you do not need it to get started, but once you get serious with myopia management, it's kind of like practicing glaucoma without an OCT. We were able to do it in the past, but it sure doesn't give you all the data that you need.
Yeah, it makes life much easier too. So let's talk about money. What do you charge with myopia management, right? So doctors don't know what to charge and how to present it to patients because it is an out-of-pocket expense.
Yeah. So definitely Paragon has a chair calculator cost on their website. So I'd highly go to there to look at it. And then what I did is you can kind of learn from me. So when MySight came out, we got it in March. Unfortunately, with the pandemic, obviously didn't really fit anything until May. And what I found out is charging different for my Ortho K level 1s and MySight. What I figured out was what I wanted to make over 3 years. And I made my MySight program as much as my Ortho K year 1, because what I found out what I was doing was charging up front higher cost for Ortho K, even with MySight. And then year 2, remember, you have to sell year 2 and year 3 to the parents. So it's not something that we're going to do 1 year and they're done with it, but I'll come back to that in a second. But what you're doing is figure out what you want to make, front load costs that, because you're going to see them 1 week, 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, and then you may be able to go to every 3 to 6 months, depending on your progression. So what I did was I made my Ortho K and my MySight program the same for year 1, and I dropped them both on year 2 and year 3. So now we're making what's the best decision for what's for the parent and for the patient. And so that's where you have to come together. So everybody's a little different. You know, my state's programs are going between 14 to 2,000 to 2,400. So I'm right in between all of that. And that's what we did for that. But coming back to what I said, even if you do just 1 year of treatment on a kid, you absolutely changed that endpoint for that child. So even getting 1 year of treatment on that 7 or 8-year-old that's a -3, you've already changed their endpoint drastically. So we get a lot of treatment effect in year 1, and it kind of levels out. But that's where you see the majority of the slowdown, which is very cool science if you think about it.
Now, are you telling patients up front that it might be it's a 3-year program, or what are you telling patients on that?
Yeah, great question. I obviously say it's a treatment that we're going to be in for multiple years. I don't know when this progression is going to stop, and we're never promising that we're stopping it. We're promising that we're slowing the progression, which I think is important, right? And then you start to see parents get interested in, you know, the outdoor time and how important that is. You know, getting outside between the recommended time is to get outside at least 60 to 90 minutes a day. Most kids are getting outside less than 20 to 30 minutes a day. So especially in winter months. Where are you, Maria? I'm
in cold Rhode Island. Got a snowstorm today, so.
So especially in winter months, I don't know if you knew this, but winter months, myopia actually progresses faster by 3 to 4 times. And so in South Florida, they don't really have an excuse to not go outside. So just coming back to the outdoor time is important.
Do not rub it in that it's nice and warm over there, and we got a blizzard over here. So
it's really cold. Look, I have like a 3-sleeve length shirt on. It was like 71 degrees.
Oh. What do you think clinicians are doing falling short on getting this going in their offices?
Yeah. Number 1 is education. You've got to learn it. Just again, like we learned glaucoma, it's not that hard to learn. Again, you can take, even just doing the MySight training with those 5 modules, you can really learn myopia management. Number 2 is getting your informed consents in place, getting your staff on board, and building your program. And then number 3, and CooperVision does a great job with this, that flip book, getting down to a 2-minute elevator pitch on what myopia is, how you're going to help treat it, and then when you're going to follow up with these kids. And you will get a lot of no's. That a no to me is just not right now. So don't try to overload patients in the beginning. Educate them and bring them back in 3 months. Like if you, like I think 6 months is now even too long. Like knowing what we know now about that 1 year of treatment. And even if they can just commit to 1 year, you're going to hook them and you're going to continue to see that it's doing something.
What's one piece of advice you can tell the listeners to this Facebook Live event to kind of, you know, take home about myopia management?
Just do it. Learn it. If you're not excited about it and you don't want to learn it, find somebody around you that does. I think futuristically, if we think a little further ahead, for myopia, I think this will become standard of care. I don't know when. Just like glaucoma, if we leave glaucoma untreated, we can all come back and not have a happy day, right? Same thing for this. If you've got that -3 6-year-old that ends up a -12, that ends up in your chair when they're 25 or 26 with myopic maculopathy or retinal detachment, and we knew about this and didn't tell them about it. So even just documenting in your chart, I think is super important, that you've at least discussed near work outdoor time. You're bringing them back in 3 to 6 months. Don't let these myopes, 1 years are done. So your kids, start seeing them every 3 to 6 months until you can get them in, or until you can get your treatment in place. And my last piece of advice here is don't start myopia management until you have your fees in place. You will 100% derail yourself. Don't make the mistake I did. I got super excited, took all this information, saw the myope, went down that rabbit hole. stay stern on your fees, figure it out. There's a lot of information out there to help you do that. Take 4 hours out of your day and really build your program, figure out your fees, get your staff on board, and you will never look back.
Where can docs get information on this to start their journey if they want to find out more information?
Yeah, obviously, the MySight Brilliant Futures program is out there, so they've got that 5 training module that you can do. The AAOMC has their boot camp that's, I think, launching at the end of probably May, which has kind of all of this filtered in. You've got the review of myopia management, so there's a lot of resources online that you can find out. We're going to do a couple lectures here, I know that, in the future, of kind of the why and the how and how to bring it in. And there's a lot out there. So you just have to pick one. The Brian Holden Vision course is really good. Just looking at some cases and how to bring it. Figure out your compounding pharmacy. Figure out what ortho K you're going to go to. Figure out your soft multifocal dual focus lens that you're going to have. And then the sky's the limit for where you want to take this. I mean, there's so many myopes out there. We have to treat them one at a time. So yeah. I think that this is a gift to all of us.
There's so much information out there on Ortho K and MySight, but not on compounding pharmacy. Can you just give us a little bit of information, like a starter view on that and where to look and what patients need it? Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm on the medical advisory board for OSRX Pharmacy. There's Leaders Pharmacy. There's one in Chicago as well. So you just literally can find the compounding pharmacy that will take care of all of this on the back end for you. You need it compounded from a pharmacy that does atropine, because atropine can become very unstable. And remember, what we're doing with atropine, we're not using 1% like penalization for an amblyop that they do on kids all the time. You're using 0.01, 0.025, 0.05. Think of 0.01. It's 100 drops of saline with 1 drop of atropine. It wears off in about 12 to 13 hours. So you're not compounding that effect, right? And then 0.025 stays in the system for about 14 to 16 hours. 0.05 is more for, those really fast progressing kids. Can't quite get in them to contact lenses, but we're really seeing this concentration debate right now. Read the studies, look at the studies. A lot of studies are skewed, obviously, into the direction that they want them to be skewed in, for atropine especially. But we'll see some bigger players come into the atropine space as some other things get FDA approved. So atropine is safe as up to, in our STAR study, we're doing it up to 3 years old and above. So even those little kids, you can start them on atropine and then kind of shift them into either MySight or a dual focus lens or into Ortho K. So lots of things about Ortho K that's fun. I don't even have an Ortho K fit set. I actually do all of my Ortho Ks empirically. So there's really cool companies out there, Paragon, iSpace, there's Euclid, where a lot of this can just be done off of topographical data, where it takes a lot of the guesswork out of it. They've got great consultants to help you. So you take a bunch of topographies, make sure that you take a bunch of topographies, because if you go derail yourself, you can always come back down to that baseline topography. So we take 5 or 6 topographies before we even put a lens on the eye. We'll do a couple more on that when we dispense it. And Ortho K is super fun. MySight's super fun.
Yeah, I love your passion about myopia management. I love it. And I think a lot of doctors got a lot of great information. I know I learned a lot from this. Facebook, we'll have you on again. We'll talk about MySight specifically. So I want to thank you so much for coming on, being an expert in the industry on myopia management. If anyone has any questions, I have your email below, and doctors can email you. People, I'm going to post this in the Facebook group. People can feel free to comment, ask questions. And I want to thank you, Dr. Rhue, for coming on to the podcast. The Facebook Live podcast. And I love your passion. I love your energy.
My pleasure. I know that optometry is full of doom and gloom, and I hope that you saw a little sparkling light here. I know this is something that is in our wheelhouse, and we're all more than capable of practicing myopia management. So just run with it. It's super fun. You're helping kids, helping parents, and yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye.